My friends think you're a loser, she said as she left me. So I quietly disappeared and built a new life. Now she's alone and begging for my help, but the loser she knew is gone forever. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. This happened a few years ago and I'm posting this now because I need to get it all out. It's a classic Reddit story, I guess. I was with my ex-girlfriend Sarah for 5 years. We met in college and built a life together from scratch. I was the rock, the stable one. I had a steady job as a junior engineer at a local firm, a sensible car, and a 2-bedroom apartment that we'd made into a home. We had a dog, regular Friday night movie traditions, and plans for the future. I adored her. I mean, truly, I thought she was the one. I was the kind of guy who remembered her parents' birthdays, brought her coffee in bed on weekends, and listened for hours to her talk about her day, her friends, her anxieties. I didn't have a flashy life, but I thought what we had was solid. It was enough. The problem, as I would soon find out, was that what we had wasn't enough for her friends. Sarah's social circle was a specific kind of toxic. They were all about hustle culture, luxury brands, and living a life that looked perfect on Instagram. They worked in PR, marketing, or were brand ambassadors. Their partners were all entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, or had some high-flying, impressive-sounding title. They were a constant, subtle pressure in our lives. At first, it was just little comments. "Oh, David's job is so stable," one of them would say at a dinner party. A slight pause before the last word that made it sound like an insult. Another time, Sarah's best friend Mia asked me, "So when are you going to stop being an employee and start being your own boss? Sarah needs a man with vision." I'd just laugh it off, and Sarah would give a weak, embarrassed smile. I thought she was on my side. I thought she understood that my steady income and benefits were the foundation that allowed her to pursue her passion projects and not worry about rent. I thought she knew that vision was a two-person game and I was providing the financial security to chase her own. But those little jabs started to land. They started to become her jabs. She began to say things like, "Why don't we ever travel like Mia and Mark? Why can't we go to Paris for a weekend?" I'd explain that Mark's business was a venture-backed money pit that hadn't turned a profit and that we had a mortgage to pay. I'd point out that we had a vacation fund for a big trip the next year, but she just saw it as me being financially boring. The final few months were miserable. She was distant, critical, and her phone was a permanent fixture in her hand, buzzing with notifications from her friends and, as I later learned, her new interest. The end came on a Tuesday night. I had just come home from work and she was sitting on the couch fidgeting with a throw pillow. I tried to talk to her to ask what was wrong, but she just shut me down. Her voice was cold, rehearsed. "David," she began, not meeting my eyes, "this isn't working." I was floored. "What do you mean? What isn't working? Is this about the Paris trip? I can look into flights." "No," she interrupted. "It's not about a trip. It's about everything, about us. My friends think you're a loser, David. They think you have no ambition. You're just safe, and I'm tired of defending you. I deserve a life, not a life insurance policy." I felt the blood drain from my face. Her words hit me like a physical blow. Not because they were true, but because they were a cruel echo of her friends' voices. She wasn't even speaking for herself. Is that what you think?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "That I'm a loser? I think you're comfortable, David. And I'm not. I want someone who pushes the envelope, who takes risks. I need someone who understands my world." She finally looked at me and there was no sadness in her eyes. There was just a smug certainty. "I've met someone who does. His name is Chase. He's a real entrepreneur. He gets it. We just connect." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. All those years I'd supported her, comforted her, built a stable home for her, and she was dismissing it all for the approval of her friends and a guy she'd just met. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't even cry. I simply stood there for a long moment, the silence of the room deafening. The only thing I could think of was how I had spent 5 years being the best partner I knew how to be, only to be told I was a placeholder, a safety net. I walked into the bedroom and opened my closet. I started pulling clothes off their hangers and putting them into a duffel bag. She watched me, a flicker of surprise on her face. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice flat. "But you can't just leave. We need to talk about this. We need to figure out the apartment and the dog." "You already figured it out," I replied, zipping up the bag. "You said you needed someone who takes risks, so here's a risk. I'm out. You can have the apartment and you can figure out the dog. I'm sure Chase can handle it. He's a real entrepreneur after all." I didn't wait for her to respond. I just walked out the door and didn't look back. I drove around for hours, just driving. I didn't have anywhere to go and I didn't talk to anyone. I just let the silence swallow me whole. The person I was for 5 years had just died in that living room. The next few weeks were a blur. I stayed with my parents, who were worried but respected my silence. I didn't tell them the full truth, just that Sarah and I had broken up. I sold my car and took a few weeks off work. The profound sense of loss was heavy, but it was mixed with a strange kind of liberation. Her words had been a slap to the face, but they had also been a wake-up call. I realized I had been living for her and her friends' approval, constantly trying to justify my own life choices. I had been a loser in her eyes, so I decided to become a loser to that life entirely. I made a drastic decision. I quit my job. I took a chance on a new opportunity, one that had been offered months before but had turned down for the sake of stability with Sarah. It was a position in a growing tech company in another city, a place I had always been fascinated by. It was a risky move, but what did I have to lose? I moved 1,000 miles away. I got a small modern apartment with a view of the city skyline and started to build a new life from scratch. I was alone, truly alone for the first time in years. The quiet was deafening at first, but slowly it became a comfort. I poured myself into my new job, and the work was challenging and fulfilling. My old hobby, woodworking, which Sarah's friends had called lame, became my therapy. I started making furniture and decor for my apartment, and the process of building something tangible with my own hands was incredibly therapeutic. The man I was becoming was still fundamentally me, but he was no longer waiting for approval. He was self-assured, confident, and for the first time truly happy with his own choices. I had no contact with Sarah. I blocked her on everything. I stopped talking to our mutual friends. I became a ghost. I didn't do it out of anger or revenge. I did it to protect my own peace. The person she had known, the safe and boring David, was gone. I needed to leave him behind to become the man I wanted to be. About a year after the breakup, a mutual friend, Mark, who had always been a little more grounded than the others, reached out. He was at a bar and saw me online. He was hesitant at first, but he eventually started telling me what had happened. "Dude, I don't know what to say," he began, "but Sarah, it's not good. Chase was a fraud. He lost all their money in some crypto scam, and now he's got a few lawsuits on his hands. He just took off, left her with nothing. Her friends, the ones who told her to leave you, they're not even talking to her anymore. She's been a mess. A year ago, this news would have devastated me. I would have felt guilty, responsible, but now I felt nothing. It was like hearing about a character in a movie. The person he was talking about was a stranger to me. I simply wished him well and changed the subject. The karma, as I learned, was not just in Chase's fraud. It was in the loss of her entire social circle and the public humiliation that came with it. Sarah's social media, once a highlight reel of her perfect life, slowly started to unravel. The power couple photos were replaced with blurry selfies and vague, sad quotes about learning from your mistakes. Her online persona, built on a foundation of status and perceived success, was crumbling. Then the attempt started. First, it was a few cryptic text messages filtered through a new number. "Hey, been thinking of you. Hope you're well." I deleted it without a second thought. Then a few weeks later, another. "I know I messed up, David. I've been through a lot lately. I miss our easy life." That one was more desperate, more of a self-serving guilt trip. I blocked the number immediately. Then came the phone call late one night. I almost didn't answer, but the caller ID was unknown. It was her. Her voice was a choked sob. "David, it's me. Please don't hang up. I don't know who else to call. He was so cold. He just left me. I miss how you used to be there for me. You were always so stable." I let her ramble for a minute, her voice full of self-pity before I spoke. My voice was calm, detached. "Sarah, you sound like you're in a bad place. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm not your emotional support system. But I know you still care about me." she cried. I know you're a good person. Please, I just need to talk. I need someone to help me get through this. I wish you peace, Sarah, I said. But you need to find it on your own. I hung up and blocked her number, the finality of it washing over me like a wave of calm. The final encounter was a month later at our mutual friend Emily's wedding. I was there with my new girlfriend, a brilliant artist named Lena. She was kind, funny, and incredibly supportive of my work. We were sitting at a table laughing when I saw her. Sarah. She looked tired. The sparkle she used to have was gone, replaced by a strained, hollow look. She was alone, fidgeting with a glass of champagne. Her eyes met mine from across the room. Her mouth dropped open and her face went from shock to something close to panic. She saw me. She saw me thriving, laughing with a woman who was 1,000 times better for me. The contrast was a visual slap to the face. The loser she left was gone, and in his place was a confident, happy man. She made a beeline for our table. David, she said, her voice a forced whisper. She glanced at Lena with a look of pure envy and then back at me. Can we talk for a second alone? I looked at Lena and gave her a gentle, reassuring smile. She knew the story and she just nodded and gave my hand a squeeze. Sarah, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I think you've had enough of my time. She ignored me, her eyes pleading. I was so wrong. I was young and stupid. My friends, they were a bad influence. I want to come home. She almost sounded like she was reading a script, her voice thick with fake emotion. Chase was nothing like you. I need you, David. I need you to help me fix this. I took a breath, and my final words to her were not angry, not sad, just a simple statement of fact. You said I was a loser, Sarah, and for a while I guess I was to the life you and your friends wanted. So I did what a loser would do. I found a life where I didn't have to defend myself, a life where I was enough. That old life, the person you left behind, he's gone. I'm happy now. I'm not who you think I am, and you're not the person I used to know. I stood up, walked back over to Lena, and wrapped my arm around her waist. Sarah just stood there, speechless, the full weight of her choices finally crashing down on her. I didn't look back again. The loser was gone, and so was she, and I had never been more at peace. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.